Hey friends, welcome to the webinar. We're so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Ethan. This is Calvin. You'll meet him more in just a moment. Our check-in question today, which has almost nothing, although maybe not totally nothing to do with college essays, is what is your favorite road trip snack? If you'd like to let us know, feel free to share in the chat. Yeah, let's just jump in. Let's do this. I like to get in, get stuck in, as they say in Britain. This is a blank page workshop. This is for y'all who are staring at a blank page or a blinking cursor and going, bro, how do I even? And we're going to share with you some like really practical resources so you can get started. Um, I'm going to talk briefly about some trends in college admissions. People like to hear about those things. Some stuff about AI and what colleges care about. And then I'm going to share with you what we found to be qualities of a great personal statement topic. I'm going to share with you some things that work less well, that make it hard to do well. We're going to get practical with some exercises. I'm going to share a couple. Calvin's going to share one of our favorites. And then we're going to share with you a timeline, some free resources, and a little sneak peek at this course that I'm teaching that starts in a week. And yeah, we'll get into it. So if you've never met us at CEG, we're all about the free resources. We have, pay what you can online courses. Our goal is to bring more ease, joy, and purpose to your process. We've got a cool program called the Matchlighter Scholars Program. Ray, our awesome moderator, will share a link to that in the chat. If you are a low-income student, and you would like free one-on-one essay coaching and application support, we do that. We'll pair you with an amazing counselor. You can sign up now. It says June 1st, but that was the first matching. You can sign up right now. We do one-on-one support with students. Calvin, in fact, is our director of essay coaching. And yeah, those are some things. We also believe that this process can be a modern rite of passage. I know if you're a student on this, I know that you have depth to bring. And that depth, getting into that depth, is part of what can make your college application memorable. And I really believe that the inner work of this process, we're going to be doing a little bit, we're going to be dabbling in it just a little bit today, is what can become a competitive advantage when you're trying to stand out in this process. There's a podcast that I recorded on why I believe the personal statement is about much more than getting into college. We'll grab a link to that and share it in the chat. Calvin, you want to say hello to the people, introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Calvin. As Ethan said, I'm the director of coaching at College Essay Guy. More than that, I am just like a genuine college essay enthusiast. Ethan touched on this in terms of it being a potential rite of passage. But I view the college essay writing process as not just a chance to write a strategic and high quality essay to help you get into a great fit college, but also a chance to really think about who you've been and who you are and who you hope to be, to reflect on what's meaningful to you, to find new connections between different sides of yourself, and to emerge from the process with a great essay and new writing skills, new understandings of yourself, and an ability to story yourself and talk about yourself that lasts a lifetime. Yeah, I mean, my background was as an English teacher before this, but I was a failed English teacher. It was too hard for me. And then I found college essays and realized it was everything I loved about doing that work. And I've been kind of hanging out with Ethan and doing this CEG work ever since.
Amazing. Thanks. I'm really glad you're here. If you saw activities list, Ethan, you would see some of these facts, which is like I wrote some books, I'm a YouTuber and a podcaster, etc. And I also did a bunch of voiceover. This would all be on my activities list. The distinction I want to make is if I was filling out my college application, what I would really want you to know about is how I identify. So I would be a non-traditional applicant as a father and husband. But some experience that I've had in my background, I was a waiter at Red Lobster. I worked at McDonald's. That was my first job. I attended 13 schools growing up. Side note, that was my actual college essay topic. I think I'm pretty good at making complex things simpler. I'm all about helping people realize their potential, and these are some of my core values. So in a few minutes, we're going to get into you brainstorming your core values. But just so you get to know me a little bit more, these are some things, and this is my daughter who's now 11, but I love this picture of us. So what's changed in college admissions? Well, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago speaking, and I talked to like 12 different admission officers. There's a YouTube video coming out on this soon. But Raisa Diamante, who's the dean at Harvey Mudd, I spoke to her, and she's like, "Yeah, we can tell when it's AI." And can they always tell? I don't know if they can, but they're obviously more aware of it. Some colleges, not a ton, but a few are starting to use AI to review applications. Virginia Tech, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. my dad's alma mater. But here's the thing, like the ones that have disclosed this so far are saying we're not just turning over applications to the machines, we are still keeping humans in the process. So just FYI, this isn't like, I don't even know if this is a trend. I think that a few people, actually, let me say this, AI in general, like many colleges use AI to review transcripts, to do things like, to sort through things, like to sort through big amounts of data. But very few, as far as we know, are using them to review essays, and those that are still having humans in the process. So I don't want y'all coming away from this being like, Ethan said that lots of schools. No, it's for reviewing essays, fewer. Unfortunately, more than two-thirds of colleges haven't issued a public statement. So it is what it is. Based on the 12 admission officers that I talked to, though, they were like, don't. Like, that's the word. I talked to admission officers ranging from TCU, check out the podcast last 2 weeks ago, to Columbia, and they're like, just, just don't. When you sign the Common App affirmations, you have to certify that all the information is all the word is yours, and you have to decide what that means. I think it's like, I'm gonna kind of let y'all decide what that means for you. But I'll just acknowledge that we are kind of in this interesting moment culturally and socially where the nature of authorship, I think, is shifting a little bit and what it means to be like yours. But I think it's a slippery slope. I would just advise you to not use AI for writing your college application. Thus, this webinar, this workshop. So, what else has changed? Some selective colleges, in fact, as of this week, all the Ivies now are asking for test scores, and that's shifted because it used to be, that there was this huge test optional movement. Having said that, there are still more than 2,000 colleges and universities that don't ask for, or they don't require scores. So if you take the ACT or SAT, your score doesn't end up where you want it to be, it's okay. You can still get into a college. And then after the Supreme Court decision to ban race conscious admission, more and more colleges are asking about identity prompts. So identity prompts are things like based on whatever your community, some aspect of who you are, how are you going to contribute to a college campus? How do I know this? Because quick spreadsheet warning, I spent after every August when all of the supplemental essays are released, I look at more than 80 selective schools and I sort all the prompts into like 27 different categories. So that's what I do with my not spare time. I did this year. And what you'll see here is like of these schools, more than 50 of them ask for a identity and what would you contribute. And more than 100 of the prompts, you could have actually used some version of this identity and what would you contribute to prompt. So that's something that's happened after the Supreme Court decision to ban race conscious admissions. Colleges are curious about your identities. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. And that's shifted a little bit more. And you're asking students to be a little bit more explicit in their essays. What hasn't changed? Most colleges still accept most students. Did y'all know this? More than more than 60. I mean, it's like the average acceptance rate. Actually, let me know in the chat. Do you know what the average acceptance rate? Some of y'all are going to Google this or Claude it real quick. What is the try and guess what the average acceptance rate is nationally for colleges and universities in the country? Yeah. Oh, y'all know. It's like, yeah, it's like 65%. But what happens in the media? They focus on those highly selective schools. And yes, the highly selective schools, or as we like to say, highly rejective, they're still highly rejective. Okay. But colleges still want to know the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you'll bring with you to a college campus. And the essays are a pretty good way to do that. They're also a pretty good way to differentiate you. Here's the main thing. I think essays are important when you and another student have similar GPAs and test scores, right? You've got similar extracurricular activities, and they're trying to make the call. Okay, how do we tell these two students apart? That's when essays can really matter, especially for schools that are more selective. So, how do you find a great essay topic? That's what we're into now. First of all, let's talk about topics that can be really hard to pull off, just to kind of level set here. There is a category of what I would call extremely common topics, common sports injuries, common instruments, piano, violin, flute, extracurricular activities like debate and tutoring and volunteering. I think you can mention these things in your essay, but if you make these your topic, it's going to be harder to stand out. You're going to have to write the best volleyball essay or the best debate essay. Okay. So it's not impossible, but it's harder to pull off and harder to stand out with. I think it's hard to pull off a mental health challenges essay because, in part, it's become such a common topic. There are many, many students writing about anxiety and dealing with that and overcoming that. The good news is it's possible to talk about mental health challenges in the additional information or the challenges and circumstances section, which is like a separate part of your application. Ray, if you wouldn't mind throwing that blog into the chat. Actually, let's throw in the mental health challenges one. That's probably the better one. There's a whole three-part podcast that I recorded on this with an admission officer, a dean of admission at Barnard, a college counselor, and a former student who wrote about mental health challenges. And it gets into the specifics of if you want to talk about mental health challenges, that's how to do it. There's also a category of what I call potentially stigmatized topics like pop culture, celebrities, musicians, Marvel, anime, or things that are about appearance like makeup and fashion, and video games that are more about like things you do for fun. I'm not saying you can't write about these things or you can't weave them in, but sometimes when you pick things like this, you have to kind of explain why the thing is not whatever the stereotype is. So it's like, video games aren't just about X there, and you have to kind of like spend some of your word limit doing that. So if you do go that direction, you will want to like sort of hang a lantern, is what we call it, and explain why the stereotype isn't necessarily true or only true. And then finally, the ones that are obvious, like potentially polarizing topics, religion, politics, these kinds of things, especially I would say since, in the past few years where there have been more, protests and things on campus. But when it comes to a great topic, which is going to be the main thing we're talking about today, what are the qualities of a great personal statement topic? I say there are three. Number one, you're going to want to find something that's elastic, which is to say stretchy enough to talk about lots of different sides of you or lots of different values. And we're going to do a little exercise in a minute that's going to help you try to find the elasticity of potential topics. The next thing is, I think a great topic is uncommon in some way. So some topics are uncommon, like just right out of the gate. Like, if you wrote your your essay on like medieval blacksmithing, like that's an uncommon topic, obviously. But the reason I say in some way is that you could write an amazing essay about food, which is something anybody could write about, ostensibly, and you could do it in a way that's uncommon. Okay. So it doesn't have to be the topic itself, it could be the execution. So either the what of your topic or the how of your topic, I think should be uncommon. And then finally, potential to weave in what we call admission nutrients. Admission nutrients are the product of a different research project that I did. So let me show you this one. Sorry, different spreadsheet. I feel like I should apologize before I show this. We did this really comprehensive research into the qualities that colleges look for. And we basically looked at websites like this one from Caltech, where we looked at, what are the qualities that colleges look for? Many colleges actually say this. And we did a big synthesis and tried to figure out, okay, what are the qualities that many schools look for? Now, these are not the be all end all that every college cares about, but we think of these as admission nutrients because these are the qualities of a quote unquote healthy application. So if you weave in things like intellectual curiosity, what are you a nerd for? Service to others, which is to say, do you help others beyond yourself? Where do you take initiative? Show your leadership. How do you collaborate? And consistent engagement. These are some good qualities to consider weaving into your application. And when it comes to a great personal statement topic, you might think, okay, is whatever topic I'm considering an opportunity for me to show some of these qualities? Thanks, Ray. Ray just put a link into the chat if you want to learn more about those. Now, colleges care about other things too, but these are some really good ones to check out and to think about as you're thinking about your topic. Okay. Final spreadsheet, I promise. Only 3 spreadsheets here. From past here, I'm going to give you just some examples of past successful essay topics. Now, this is like looking at, past, I basically do this. This was my pandemic project, looking at past essays that were successful. How did students arrive at those topics? It could be that you write about something like animals, your love of animals, or your love of mazes or plants. Okay. It could be that your essay is on the stickers on your laptop or the keychains that you collect. Or maybe it's a skill or superpower you have. Like maybe you are a songwriter, or your superpower is like about how you relate to trying new things. Maybe your essay talks about a career that you're interested in, like art history. These are all linking to somebody's gonna be like, wait, hey, how do we get that spreadsheet? This is just an internal doc. But I'm like self-conscious because all the links keep popping up. It could be that you're interested in talking about an identity, like your adventurer identity, or maybe it's your relationship to your Japanese identity. It could be that you talk about a home that's important to you, like maybe it's the coffee shops, or maybe it's like I mentioned, an uncommon extracurricular, like you do boxing or you founded a kombucha club or something like that. So my point in sharing this with you is there are so many different potential topics that you could consider. The sky's the limit, kind of here. Okay. So I want to share with you some exercises to find some awesome topics. And for this, I want you to check out this URL, tinyurl.com/CEG workbook 2026. You'll find it in the chat. And it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. Okay. And then when you click that, you'll make a copy. It'll be in your Google Drive. Nobody else will have access to it. And it'll look like this here. Okay. So in this brainstorming exercise workbook, we're not going to go through all the exercises today. We're just going to go through a couple because I want to kind of show you how this works. All right. So once you've got that, we're going to do three 2-minute exercises. And then I'm going to show you how these can turn into essay topics. You got this? Give me a little thumbs up in the chat, or give me a thumbs up, not in the chat, but if you can do the reaction emoji, if you've got the workbook. It takes a second to find that in Zoom. Maybe we might have reaction emojis. Oh, there we go. There's a little, I love how it looks. Yes. I love how it looks in the thing, like they all float up so nicely. Okay. We're going to do a couple 2-minute exercises and then we're going to see how these turn into topics. So check this out. This first exercise is called I love. And how it works is very simple. And even if you don't have access to the workbook, you can just like, I don't know, pull out a piece of paper and a pen, or you can just pull out your phone and come up with this list here. All right. So what I want you to do is we're going to spend like, I'm going to set a little timer here. I'm going to put my clock on in the background. And I want you to make a list of things that you love. Okay. What do I mean by things that you love? I don't know. It could be random. It could be, let's do it. Let me just do it for just a second. I love this mug that I have from Powell's Books. I love used books. I love improv games. I love theater. I love going to the theater with my daughter. I love deep breaths. I love Calvin. I love hanging out with Calvin. I love Calvin's passion for the Knicks. I love watching basketball. I love playing basketball. You see, I'm just riffing, okay? And that's kind of what I want you all to do, all right? So we're going to do this for about a minute and a half. Don't think about this too much. Quantity is as important as quality here, all right? Three, two, one, make a list of things that you love. Go. And you all can feel free to get niche and weird with this. Like, be random. Give yourself permission to be random here and get really specific. All right, 30 seconds. What else do you love? All right, time's up. All right, part two of the exercise, you probably can guess because it's like on the dock right now, is I want you now to make a list of things that you know a lot about or could geek out on. Parents, if you're watching, do this too. It's kind of fun, I promise. All right, counselors, same for y'all. Love to have you join us. Okay, what are some things that you know a lot about or could geek out on? All right, same thing, minute and a half, make a list. And by the way, I mean things like, if you met someone in a social situation and they were into this too, you'd be like, oh, we should talk. All right. So for me, that's like, and they're going to overlap a little bit, but for me, that's like college essays and um, how to make funny voices. And I know a lot about college basketball and I know a lot about facilitation, etc. All right, go for it. 90 seconds. Right? See if you can come up with one more. All right. Now, I'd love for y'all to share in the chat just your random list of just put I love and then just copy and paste the whole thing in, or I know, just copy and paste the whole thing in. I'd love to get like, I don't know, at least 10 people to share, maybe 20, just so we can get a sense. This is good for, this is what I call a potluck moment where everybody brings their dish and more people get to eat, like everybody gets to eat. And what it'll help do is it'll help other people remember stuff. If you're needing to edit your list because you don't want to share the whole thing, that's cool too. All right, amazing. Let's get a few more here. Great. Make sure that you check everyone so that it doesn't go to just hosts and panelists. Beautiful, beautiful. Such lovely essay topics. All right, that's great. That's enough for now. Pause there. And the reason I'm saying pause is so that other people can like read. So just take a look at the range here, y'all. Take a look at just look in the chat for just a minute. I know this might sound weird, but there are like 100 essay topics right here. Okay. Just from this. Okay. And I'm pausing and I'm letting y'all see this because I want y'all to know that you could write your essay on friggin', solving puzzles or watching reels or being organized. That's all from one person. The Navy and its values. I've never read a Navy essay. That sounds awesome. And the way to do this is, and there are like a bunch of different exercises we could do today. We're just going to stick with this one and work with this one. The way to do this one is by connecting something that you love or know a lot about to values. Now, if you scroll down on your list here, you'll see a list of values. Now, there's a separate instruction here for like just finding your top values. We're going to actually use it in a very targeted way to see if I can help you basically see if your topic is going to be elastic. So here's what I mean by this. So this is a silly name. It's called the jellyfish exercise. But the purpose of it is to help you see if you have enough to say about a particular topic, and then to maybe even help you stand out with that topic to generate what we call uncommon connections. So there are like kind of two parts to this exercise. So here's the way it works. Pick a potential topic. So pick something from your list, okay? And if you, for some reason, didn't do this and you want to like, I don't know, pick something, I mean, you can do this. Pick something that you love or know a lot about, something that you could go on and on for like 5 minutes about, okay? And then once you have a thing, and by the way, if you're like, well, what kind of thing should I pick? Well, maybe something that weaves in some admission nutrients, maybe something that you think could be uncommon in some way. Just saying, okay? And once you have a thing, I want you to see how many values you can connect it to in 2 minutes. Okay. So pick a thing. So for instance, like I'm gonna pick something from somebody else's list. So let's see. Political theory wouldn't be very elastic for me because I don't know that I could connect it to too many things. Let's see. Literature. Oh man, I could connect literature to everything. I can connect literature to meaningful work. I can connect literature to wonder. I can connect literature to belonging, etc. Okay. So you spend 2 minutes. I'm going to start the timer now. Connecting whatever topic you've picked, just pick anyone random, and see how many values you can connect it to from this list. And if you want, once you've got a list of values, you could share it in the chat. I'll just put an example in the chat. You just list your topic and then what values you can connect it to. Imagine the perfect background music playing now. I'm not going to play it, but you can just imagine. All right, half a minute more. See if you can find a couple more values. Are there any values that might surprise us related to your topic? All right, fam, let's see how we did. Oh my gosh, avant-garde art is so good. Look at all those values. Wild. Krav Maga, great. Collecting stickers, Layla, yes. So many different ways that you could talk about that. Succulents, yes. My succulents, amazing. Yeah, totally. Philosophy. It honestly does go with everything. Totally. Someone said coral reefs, robotics. So robotics is like top 10 most common topics. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Audit is like, could you find something else that's like robotics adjacent and like weave in robotics somewhere just because so many students write robotics as their main common topic? I'm not saying you can't. I'm just challenging you here on this session. Okay, y'all are getting this vibe. Let's get like, I don't know, like five more people. Oh, you've got it. Yes. And if you found like two or three values, that's good. See if you can find like five or seven. Notice I didn't say six or seven. All right. So there we go. MBTI types, abandoned castles. Yes. Okay. Amazing. So this is how these start to get built. And like 50 of you just came up with an awesome essay topic that's totally going to work. Okay. So what do you do next? Check this out. Once you've created your, I call this jellyfish because you, if you like wrote this out, you could do like little squiggly lines and connect it to like different things. Here's the next step. Can you make it more unexpected? So let's say my topic is board games and I have some sort of like obvious values like fun and competition and teamwork. Okay, yeah, Ethan, that's going to sound like every other board games essay. Can you come up with some values that might be a little more unexpected? Like board games have also taught me about empathy or about my ability to listen, etc. So now go to the values list and see if you can pick two more unexpected or uncommon values that if someone else was writing on your topic, whether it's robotics or Krav Maga or something like that, give me some like uncommon values that might surprise us. Like for example, okay, Rich has got one. So cooking, there might be some obvious ones in here, but I see some uncommon ones in there. That's nice. Great. There we go. Avant-garde art. Democracy and truth. Maybe not in everybody's avant-garde art essay. For stickers, they connect me to my community. Adaptability. Nice, Layla. That seems uncommon. Love it. Now, this is the part that can be a little bit more difficult, but when you can set yourself up with some more uncommon values, then you go from like making your, let's say it's a sports essay about hard work and my team is my family, into something a little bit more unexpected. So for instance, let's say you're writing an essay about soccer. Maybe you kind of don't end up writing about, the importance of patience or failure or something like that. And you find some values that are a little bit more surprising. And that is the first step to standing out with a common topic. And I'll say this, the more common your topic is, I think the more important it is to come up with uncommon connections and uncommon values. Okay. Once you've got a topic that you think might be kind of a cool topic, what do you do with it? How do you get started? And for that, I'm tagging in Calvin.
Hey, all. Um, cool. Like you have the topic, you've decided it's elastic, you've found these different values that it connects to that are delightful and unexpected. How do you actually write an essay or even outline an essay from there? You can't say, let's imagine you're writing about jazz, right? For example, you can't just say one value that relates to jazz for me is communication and then write about it. And then another value, right? That's not going to make for a compelling, well crafted essay. So it's important to figure out how do you build a bridge between that framework of something like jazz and those values that you want to kind of get to in the end. I use an exercise called a pile of stuff. It's just collecting a pile of stuff that has to do with your topic and testing out which of those might give you an opening to creatively connect to a meaningful side of yourself. Let's see if I can share my screen here. All right. There we are. Okay. So a pile of stuff is a way to collect pieces that you can build bridges with between the topic or the framework and the meaningful stuff that you want to write about. It helps you identify body paragraphs as well that you can eventually draft from an outline. Imagine that jazz has come up as the topic you want to explore, and you want to figure out, okay, is this really going to work? Is it going to help me showcase my values of inclusion, communication, being a facilitator, loving languages? I know I want to write about coaching model UN, and I know I want to really write about that cool app I built, and I want to touch on these values. How am I going to get from just writing about jazz to showcasing those sides of me and those values? The first thing you want to do is sort of put aside the values for a second and think, what are some things within your topic that you could write about? I saw ancient castles come up, and I imagine, what are some aspects of ancient castles, right? Is it parts of the castle? Is it specific ancient castles you've visited? What are some like different things underneath that umbrella that exist? For jazz, this is an example from a student that I worked with. The student mentioned loving bossa nova in a specific song. The student mentioned scatting. He just loved scatting in jazz. He thought it was the coolest thing. He loved this genre that I had never heard of, and I don't know if it's good, so don't take no. I'm not endorsing it, but jazz rap. He played the upright bass in his jazz band, and he loved the artist Trombone Shorty. So the first step is to think about what are some things within your topic that exist. It's really broad. It's not about getting the right thing. It's about generating a lot of different options to play around with. I'd love to see in the chat. Let's take, if you're someone, let's think about Transformers, right? I saw that from Ruth. What are some things within Transformers? Just anything within it. Is it the specific Transformers themselves? Is it the individual movies? Is it the different versions, the different sort of forms it's come out in? If you've chosen a topic and you have your values, I'd love to see in the chat just like any way you can just start to put together that pile of stuff. I don't have a space for it in the workbook.
Yeah, I mean, or y'all can just like zoom down to the bottom of your workbook and like you can put your pile of stuff there.
Yeah.
This is hard. And we know that we don't expect y'all to like instantly have this, by the way. This usually takes a little while, but
it might help to sort of see where like what you end up doing with this stuff to kind of give you a sense of what aspects of a thing might actually work out. Once you have those things, you want to start thinking, okay, do any of those things give me an excuse to talk about one of those more meaningful aspects of myself? So if I'm doing this for jazz, I might be thinking about, all the trombone shorty, bossa nova. For each of those things, think what's a real thing you could connect it to? What's a real thing it might represent? What would you really be talking about if you were to write a body paragraph about that part of the topic? From there, you're going to be able to outline connections and roles and values and identities. An example might be most helpful here. In this topic of jazz, this is my take if I were writing about that topic. My favorite jazz song is Take Five, which is a Dave Brubeck song that I like, really, really love. It just like does it for me. How might I use Take Five to talk about a value of mine or something that's important to me? If I were writing about Take Five, I might actually write about my love of making weird things more accessible for people, right? Take Five is a strange time signature, 5/4. Normally, music isn't written in that time signature, but Dave Brubeck in that song really like makes it smooth, makes it easy to listen to. And for me, that reflects something important to me because I love complicated board games and I love teaching them to people that I know. And I take pride in taking the sort of awkward, overwrought, complicated rules and making them really approachable for the people I know and love. And if I write about that in my essay, if I write about that in the body paragraph, it's going to give me a chance to talk about how why do I love teaching games? Because I love inclusion. I love including people in the things that I enjoy. I love breaking down strategy into smaller pieces. I love communicating effectively, even with complex content. And more than anything, I love sharing the things I love with others. Suddenly I have a way to write about jazz and eventually arrive at these values and something that I want colleges to know about me, specifically the way my brain lights up when teaching and analyzing complex board games. In the upright bass example from before, if a student plays upright bass, a body paragraph that starts with one thing I've loved, like where I learned most about jazz was through playing upright bass in the jazz band. In that band, my bass playing is the foundation that the other instruments build on. That's the real thing he wants to talk about, is being that foundation that supports other people. Where does that show up in his life? Suddenly he has a way to talk about being a model UN coach, where he's not just bragging, but he's grounding it in something really important to him: mentorship, humility, facilitation. As a model UN coach, I provide the baseline that my middle schoolers build on. And he now has this sort of opportunity to write about that meaningful side of him in a way that highlights something deeper than just I love jazz or I love Model UN. A couple more examples of sort of identifying that sort of bridge between jazz, your sort of overall framework, and the really meaningful stuff. He wrote about scatting, right? One of my favorite jazz artists, I think it was actually, I can't remember who it was, Etta James maybe, someone who really was a top tier scatter. And what the real thing he was talking about, this sort of was this idea that random noises can suddenly come together and lead to something beautiful and cohesive. And why is that important to him? Because he loves language learning and language acquisition. And he's studied many languages. And through talking about that and sharing that side of him, he's also sharing his values of communication, adventure, travel, all of that stuff. I'm seeing some great stuff in the chat. Um, this music piece, Dad on Aux. I'm imagining if you could connect that to family, secondhand CDs, you could connect that to values of even like sustainability, of upcycling. Um, you start to have all of these aspects of the topic that you can eventually infuse with more meaning and use to set up writing about cool things you've done and cool sides of who you are. I'm curious, if I really appreciate the brave folks who have shared. I'd love to see as we kind of walked through that. I wonder like what other ways might you break your topic down so that you have an anchor to your topic for each sort of body paragraph. Because the beauty of the pile of stuff is that what you're actually doing here is you're starting to outline your essay. In the Krav Maga essay, there's a paragraph about boxing gloves, but it's not really about boxing gloves. It's about something more meaningful. And you get to kind of be creative about what you translate that into. The next paragraph is about adapting to your surroundings. The next paragraph is about guarding your face. What does that really represent? What's the real thing there? That's the hard work. But you already have that. You already have what you need for that because you've already considered what values you want to highlight. Ethan, I'm curious, as you imagine your board games essay, right, that you've used as an example before, what is like what might those body paragraphs start with and where might they arrive?
Yeah. I think I would probably dive in with like it's game night, when it's sort of like here we go. So I probably do some kind of like, there's actually, let me give a quick example I'm going to give the escape rooms example because I think it's a great structure. Let me show you all what
Perfect.
these look like when it turns into an actual essay. So let me show you, I'm going to fast forward to so in this case, this is a student who's writing about escape rooms. This is a student who took my course year before last. And she starts off with this moment that plunges us right into the thing. The United States is under attack. We're like, wait, what's happening? And she says, you have 60 minutes to disarm the missiles. Good luck. The fate of the world is in my hands. I think I'd probably start with something where the reader like didn't know what was going on and is like, what's happening? And then explain, you know what? It's not actually the fate of the world isn't actually in my hands. This is just the name of the game when it comes to escape rooms. So she establishes the topic. Yeah. And then at the end of her paragraph, she says, the lessons I've taken away from escape rooms extend much further than this. And in her next paragraph, I'm not going to go through the whole essay, but she basically gives an account of like a particular escape room. Things are counting down. And she talks about how her mind, her analytical mind, not only helps plan her getaway in an escape room, but also enables her to look after her community. So the thing that Calvin's talking about in terms of like what's the real thing, it's not about escape rooms, not really. Notice how much it's just two sentences on escape rooms. It's really about how her analytical mind helps her in her life. And in particular, it helps her look after her community. And then, maybe I'll get into the essay a little bit more after Q&A, but she basically talks about how she looks after her community and she gives specific examples from her life so we can see somebody that's committed to community and has an analytical mind. But again, escape rooms is like one of the things we like to say is like your topic isn't your topic. Like you are your topic. Your topic is just an excuse to basically serve up your values. Because you can't just, as Calvin was saying, you can't just be like, I got some values. It's kind of like eating Nutella from the jar. Like I guess you could eat Nutella from the jar, but you probably should like get some crackers. Like at least that's me. So I haven't used that. That's a new one, Calvin. It's kind of like if you just said your value. So what is your cracker is your topic is your cracker, and it's your excuse to get into your values. Do you vibe with that? Do you like that one, Calvin, or is that one silly?
Yeah, no. I like it. I like it. And it's like, it's what gives you the excuse to get into the good stuff.
There we
Like
go.
that's what
Thank
I
you.
like about the Nutella example is instead of just saying I value languages, it's like, jazz has scatting, which is noise turned into meaning, which connects to which is just like I feel when I'm studying a new language. Boom, you're there. You found
Boom.
your cracker
Yeah.
and you're dipping right in.
Yeah.
I can get with it. I can get with it.
And that can be done in so many different ways, y'all. There's so many different varieties of this. But the game that we're playing here is like, what's the thing that is sort of like grabbing our attention, making us curious, interested, and then how do you connect to lots of different parts of you? That's that elasticity part. And how do you do it in a way that isn't necessarily going to sound like other people's stories? I want to make sure that we've got time to like do plenty of Q&A. So let me just, if I can share my screen, will you just walk folks through this timeline, Calvin? What's the sort of like what do we recommend in terms of like getting these things done?
Oh, absolutely. So, if you're just getting started now, I would give yourself a little bit of time to brainstorm and explore topics, right? Do some of the CEG brainstorming exercises and consider what topic or framework, if you're writing a montage essay, or what narrative, what story you might want to tell that's going to best set you up to talk about meaningful sides of yourself. One thing that I think is important is getting comfortable testing out a topic that you might ditch after a little bit of time. You want to see if it's elastic. Do the jellyfish exercise. See if you can connect values to different pieces of the topic. And you might realize, this one's not working that well for me, and get rid of it and keep on going. you don't want to just choose a topic necessarily and say, okay, I'm stuck with this one. Some of the best essays I've seen have come to be after trying out a topic or two and making a change. Eventually, you are going to want to start drafting. My big piece of advice about drafting is to think about drafting as your chance again to like further test out a topic. When you're drafting, you're trying to see if the current plan is going to work. A lot of students make the mistake of drafting and revising at the same time.
Yeah.
When you're writing a draft, it's not an attempt to write the final draft every time. Some students think, okay, I'm going to write the draft now and it's going to be great. And if it's not, then I've somehow screwed up. It's not true. Each draft is going to help you learn about what you're trying to write, it's going to move you closer to writing that final draft. So don't try to make every sentence perfect as you're writing a first draft or even a second or even a third. Use those drafts as a chance to try out new approaches, try out new language, make new connections, reorganize. And that's something that I think would make sense to be doing um, in July. Get into that messy drafting part of the process where you're still experimenting and you're comfortable getting rid of whole paragraphs. You're comfortable going back and re-outlining. In August, I think that's when you may hope to kind of have arrived at a a draft that is mostly working. The shape of it is working. The structure is working. Um, and that's when you can start revising for things like voice, for concision, for sentence structure, really trying to fine tune things. As you're doing that, you want to make sure that you also are keeping your eye on things like the activities list and additional info. And in August, schools will release their updated prompts for the year. And that's a great time to go and find all those prompts and start to consider what you're going to write about for your supplemental essays. In a perfect world, you might finish your applications early, but with an early deadline, of November 1st, just make sure you're done by October 31st and you'll be in good shape. If you can get your personal statement really underway in June and July and be refining it and revising it in August while you shift most of your attention to supplemental essays, you're going to be in great shape to be ready by the deadline and to do great work in your fall classes. The happiest students that I've worked with and seen are the ones who get a lot of it done, a lot of their essay writing done in the summer, and are able to enter the fall with some more focus on school. I will say, though, most students are still working in the fall. So if that's you, you haven't done anything wrong.
Totally. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, we got tons of free resources, y'all. We're gonna email you this recording, obviously, but we've got stuff on our college admissions hub, and we've got our Instagram and our YouTube channel. We put out new videos every other week or so. Instagram, I think we're posting like 5 times a week or something. So definitely check us out on those. Again, we've got the Match Letter Scholars Program. So if there y'all out there who identify as low income and you want 10 free hours of one-on-one help, we'd love to have you apply. We'll put that link in the chat. And then this summer, I mentioned this, but I've got these courses coming up. Let me just tell you what's in these courses real quick. So essentially, this is 2 4-week courses back to back. They start next week. I'm basically going to be leading them like this. We're going to do more brainstorming exercises. You're going to be sharing ideas. I'm going to be saying yes, no, yeah, think about it this way. And I'm going to try to teach you to think like college essay guy. That's kind of one of my goals on that course. Lots of Q&A. We've got 4 90-minute sessions, but they end up turning into 2-hour sessions because I hang around for lots of Q&A afterwards. Part one, we get into brainstorming. Starts actually, I think, a week from today. And then we do outlining and writing. The following week, revising. And my goal, my hope for you is that you actually have these things like pretty solid once the month is done. And then we shift into thinking about the application. So this is like the things that Calvin mentioned. So we go big picture. Once you write the personal statement, all right, how does that fit into the applications for the schools that you're applying to? How do you write an awesome brag sheet? The additional info section, which is like all the other stuff that you want to say, all these supplemental essays like the why us, the identities essay that I mentioned. We meet twice a day for those sessions, once a week, twice a day. And yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It's a vibe. And anyway, these are the dates here. We've got pay what you can spots for anybody who can't afford the course cost. We've got access to something called my Choose Your Own Adventure essay tool, which is basically a really comprehensive tool that's going to help map out not just like the pile of stuff, but like, okay, how do you actually see all the examples and how they came to be? How do you write a great hook? How do you write a great opening? How do you write a great ending? What are the qualities, etc. I've improved the brainstorming exercises. I've got more stuff on how to create an inspiring application, like big picture. And we've got a thing that the first 100 folks to sign up get invited to this Inside College Admissions private Q&A with me and our colleague Tom, who's not on today, but he's a former Pomona admissions officer. And it's really just an AMA. You can ask us anything on that session. So that's a little bonus for folks who sign up. Normally the price for those, or it's $594 for the two courses if you sign up individually, like separately. But the combined program is $450. But again, we've got pay what you can spots available if you're interested in that. And it's an 8-week course, and you should be in pretty good shape. That's the hope before you go back when you're starting fall. Also, if you're on this webinar, we're going to do a little 20% off thing. So it'll take 20% off the price of 450 for 360. And you can just use the code this week, Kickstart 20, to get a few bucks off, 90 bucks off. So yeah, would love to have you all join for that course. It's going to be fun, and it's a good vibe. It's kind of like this. If you're interested in one-on-one support, as I mentioned, we do one-on-one stuff. Our college essay coaching. Maybe Ray, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a link to this. When you sign up with us, you get paired actually by Calvin with an amazing coach to help you figure out with a lot of different brainstorming exercises, what you're about, what you're into. We pair you based on, things like time zone and, your preferences. But it's, you kind of meet with somebody throughout the process to, usually it's once a week to kind of go, through every single part of it, drafting, redrafting. We also, at some point in the process, we have a second review internally so that it's sort of like all making sense. So you've got, support there. And yeah, we are highly recommended. You can see the link in the chat. So if you're interested in working with us one-on-one, yeah, we'd love to support you. Let me put those links up with the coupon code. So yeah, thanks for being here. Let's get into the chat here and see what questions y'all have. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. This first one came in a few minutes ago. What if I write about moving around a lot, but I frame the essay in a different way? I talk about one thing, abruptly change to another topic, then change to another, and then I reflect on the abrupt changes my life went through because of moving so much. I connect this to my values, open-mindedness. Could this work? I mean, it worked for me, anonymous attendee. I mean, it sounds like that could be either a montage, which is what we've been talking about. The theme is moving around and developing adaptability, or it could be a structure that we didn't talk about today, which is the narrative structure, which is like the challenges and effects, what you did about it, and what you learned through the experience. So I think it could work, and I think it could work either way. Yeah, Calvin, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, and I really admire students who get ambitious with their craft. Like it sounds like the idea there is to write about like to do this thing where you're writing about a topic, then suddenly it changes and suddenly it changes, and there's a reveal at the end like, sudden changes can be hard, or sudden changes can be this, and that reflects actually my different moves. And I love an ambitious topic, but when you're taking an approach like that, it's important to remember to balance clarity and craft. Colleges will appreciate a well-crafted creative essay for sure, but not if it comes at the expense of clarity. If a reader isn't sure what you're talking about, right? If you are abruptly changing topics over and over again at the beginning of your essay, it might actually be so unclear to the reader, even if there's a delightful and like amazing reveal at the end, you might lose that reader because it's too high on craft and creativity, and it hasn't given enough clarity early on. So just my word of caution for any sort of super creative, ambitious essay idea, make sure to balance clarity and creativity.
Yeah, yeah, great point. Yeah, there's yeah, that balance of like information and poetry. It's like we want to prize information slightly more than poetry because we want to be doing all the things, giving the reader the nutrients. We've got a bunch of international students on the call. I'm so glad y'all are here. For those of you who are wondering, can you take these courses and get the pay what you can? The answer is yes, and I would love to have y'all on the course. So if you're a low-income student, whether you're international or not, please join me, join me, join me. I would so love to spend 8 weeks with y'all. Sorry, sometimes the times don't work out and it's really late your time, but you can get the recordings for sure. Somebody's asking in the Q&A, about a particular situation where you had to drop out and go back and, do a different, go back to one school, you can explain all of that in your additional information section. So just explain what the challenge is, what you did about it, what you learned from the experience. It can be straightforward. You don't even need to put that in your personal statement. It could just be in the challenges and circumstances section of your application. Let's see. How many drafts are usually needed? Ooh, that's a good one. Calvin, that's a good one. That's a super open-ended one. How many drafts does it take to write a great college essay?
I've seen it done in as few as three or four, and I've seen it done in as many as eight or nine. And I've rarely seen drafts 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 add much value at all. There comes a moment where it is good enough, and additional tinkering will either just move you sideways instead of higher, or will start to actually make the essay worse. So I would say anywhere between 3 to 8 would be, I don't know what I would guess. Ethan, I don't know. What do you
And
think? Is that
you're faster than me.
close?
I mean, I'm trying to think of like the ones that I love, like the food essay. I don't know how many the escape rooms essay took, but the food essay took definitely more than 10. That was a student who was definitely tinkering. But I would say it's definitely more than like 6 or 7. Now I'm going to say it, but I think it actually is because I think that it takes a while to figure out what the story is. And I just want to, as Calvin was saying earlier, I just want to encourage y'all to let go the old drafts and let the like kill the essay of yesterday to the essay of tomorrow. Don't quote me on that. That sounds gross. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
But I also, yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes me think that we're actually more aligned because, like, I'm not, when I think about like the like drafts, it's like I think of like once you actually know what you're writing about, how
Okay, yeah,
many times are you going to be rewriting the same thing in order to
totally.
arrive at a great version of it? That to me is that 3 to 8. But that doesn't include all of the attempts before that. But I think of those almost more as part of the like outlining, like the, I don't know, that's not quite the like revision process. So
Right, totally.
yeah, but I agree for sure. Let go of the old. Like if it's not really working, don't be afraid to start again.
Yeah. A few of y'all are asking about what prompts to choose for the Common App. So we're not big on choosing Common App prompts early just because we feel like there are some better exercise that you can do to come up with ideas. Colleges don't care which prompt you choose. The Common App has a prompt option, number 7, called Topic of Your Choice. More than 50% of students choose it, and it's awesome. It's great. If you can focus on showing skills, qualities, values, and interests, and tell your story in a way that's uncommon in some way, that's weaving in emission nutrients, pick whichever prompt makes sense. The first one is broad and open-ended. It doesn't really matter. I will say this, there is a prompt that I find incredibly difficult to write. Let me just bring it up. So it's this prompt that is I have a feeling that they're going to get rid of it eventually because I just imagine it's super hard to write and I haven't seen it done super well. Here are the Common App prompts in case anybody's wondering. Anything about identity, interest, talent. We've kind of been discussing these things a little bit today. There's also a challenges-based one, the lessons we take from obstacles. The one that I think would be really hard to write on is reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. If I had to say like there's a prompt that's harder to choose, I think it would be that one. I think that one's much more difficult to do well in my experience. I haven't seen a ton of amazing ones with that. We got a couple more minutes here. I know we're at time, but we'll record for a couple more minutes here. To what degree should numbers be included in essays? Should those be reserved for activities descriptions? Keep them in the activities list descriptions. You can put all those things there. You don't necessarily, and I'll let you, Calvin, by the way, feel free to scan the Q&A and pick whichever one you feel inspired to pick. But, I would say, yeah, numbers, you don't need to do any of that bragging. It's going to be in the activities list. You can refer to those things subtly. I have a whole little mini module on how to like subtly weave in your extracurriculars. But yeah, I would say leave those numbers, in your activities list. You
Yeah,
see?
I mean,
Yeah.
the question that stands out to me is someone who asked, is it better to have one story the whole time, or a few different stories that have the same ish takeaway? And my answer there is it can work to tell one story if that story is demonstrating meaningful growth and allows you to showcase a lot of your values and different roles you play. That's what we would call that narrative essay. And if you're not going to do that, instead of thinking about it as writing a bunch of different pieces that have the same ish takeaway, think about a bunch of different pieces that can all be like that can all fit under a certain idea or framework or theme that have actually very distinct takeaways, right? That's what I mean about that idea of like the jazz essay. The topic is jazz throughout, but you're finding little anecdotes to write, little elements of jazz that help you show actually different sides of yourself that lead to different takeaways about who you are. I'm someone who loves languages. I'm someone who takes pride in facilitating and leaving a legacy. I'm someone who loves mixing genres in music, in writing, in academics. So yeah, you can go with the narrative. You can go with what we call that montage. But if you're writing a montage, instead of thinking of it as all culminating with one identical takeaway, think of it as a chance to showcase different sides of yourself. And what holds it together is that theme, is that framework.
Yeah. uh, Once somebody asks about major, does the personal essay need to be connected to your major? Not necessarily. It could be, and I think it shouldn't feel random. Like if your essay is all about, cooking and how you love cooking, and it's all about family, and then at the end you're like, and I want to be an aerospace engineer, it might be like, wait, what? So make sure that whatever values you're showing are values that could probably serve in the future career if if you're, for example, applying to a school for like a particular major. There's a whole other layering thing that you can do where you're like talking about, I don't know, something that you love, like plants, and you're showing different qualities that then reveal, I'm going to go into business. And that's a cool structure that you can do. So you can kind of do like, um, basically have like two layers to the essay. And that's like a whole technique, but it doesn't have to. In other words, you can still get into a great college, but I would say it is good to think about your career and how it's going to be making sense to the reader. Curious to hear in the chat if y'all what's one thing that you took away from today? I'm always curious to know what folks get out of this. It's also a chance to like sort of do a little mini recap and get a little synthesis going on. Maybe we'll do one more question each, Calvin. Let's see. How would you? Oh, you got the topic on music, the one on music.
Yeah, like how do you make an essay about music stand out? Well, one thing is you find opportunities to make it about a lot of things that aren't music, right? Like I think of like an essay about music could have each body paragraph grounded in a specific musical symbol, like a rest, for example, right? And well, you're talking about the importance of, rests in music. You're then pivoting to the importance of rest in your life elsewhere. Those pauses you take to reflect or recharge, or the importance of finding a rest in conversation so that you can listen and not just talk, talk, talk. And so you're finding a way to, you're sort of right about music because it's really important to you, but the bulk of the content isn't music is also meaningful to me this way and this way. It's like an excuse to write about different sides of yourself. And so yeah, I just think elastic is the word that Ethan used earlier that I think is most important when you're writing a great montage essay. Um, and finding ways to stretch that topic to touch on other sides of yourself. That's what is, I think, most exciting for a reader and and gives you the most opportunities to showcase your amazing self.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually answer one very quickly, and then I'm gonna answer two, and then we'll call it. But does a college application essay have to be about me, or can I focus on someone or something that inspired me and explain how it influenced my growth? It's not a bad question. You gave me like the crying emoji. That's a good question. I would say you want to make it as little as possible about the person or about the experience, like 10%, and mostly about you and your growth. And that connects to this other question. Somebody asked, if you were to write about pop culture because the topic's so important to you, what would you say is the perfect balance between breaking down why the stereotypes are untrue and how it relates to you in your story? Just briefly, let me give you an example. Here's a student. We've got this. I'll put this in the chat. This is a student who was writing about makeup, and this one took like 10 drafts. We were, she did a ton of drafts. A student I worked with years ago, but she basically talks about how, people thought she was, or she worried that people were going to think that she was superficial for just being interested in makeup, and she was like self-conscious about this, but cosmetics were an essential part of her life. So she spends like maybe 100 words at the start, and then she gets into all these different things that cosmetics connect her to, cosmetic science and care for the environment and leadership and, intellectual curiosity. So there are all these different things, and you'll see like a little analysis here at the bottom. There are all these different things that she gets into. So it's really just the beginning of it. So super short, 10, 15% of your essay, and then on to all the other awesome parts of you. Yeah. All right, friends. Thank you. I know we're over time. Appreciate y'all staying. Calvin, you're the best. Thanks for being here. And yeah, thanks Ray for holding it down in the chat. We'd love to hang out with y'all. Come hang out with us more. We've got future sessions coming up, or come chill with me next week on the course. And yeah, much love. See y'all soon.
Bye all.